welcome everyone. As you may know already, I'm Erica Desker, founder of the Center for Confident Parenting and the Special Needs Collective. I'm a mom on a mission to bring really important information to parents and families as early in their journey as possible. I am also a fangirl of our guest tonight, Mike Fogel. I've attended his webinars before, and they've been just so helpful for me with my son and for our family as a whole that I invited him to speak just for our group to try to get this information to everyone. So I'm very excited that you're here tonight or watching this later. Mike is a board certified art therapist and an overachiever, as we were just discussing. As you can see on the screen, he's the founder of many excellent programs that you may have heard of. Camp Pegasus tends to be the one that most people are familiar with. A camp for children with social emotional needs, the Art of Friendship, a social coping program, and Child and Family Art Therapy Center, which has multiple locations, I believe 5, but when you take over, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Mike is also the 4. Okay, I was adding to your repertoire. Also the author of a book, The Social Emotional Guidebook, Motivate Children with Social Challenges to Master Social and Emotional Coping Skills. And that is what we are here to discuss tonight. So without further ado, I will turn it over to you so you can share all of your wisdom with us. Just some housekeeping. If you have questions, pop them in the chat. I'll keep an eye on that. We can answer them throughout or at the end, however they come up. And the floor is all yours, Mike.
Okay, thank you so much for having me, Erica, and hello, everyone. Glad you're with us, and just always thrilled to be able to share some of the discoveries that I've made over the years and some of the interventions and support strategies that I've innovated and created out of necessity when there weren't any at the time when I first started working with neurodiverse kids. And so today, I want to share a method that can help both create a great sense of acceptance for who a child is in their neurodivergence and also motivate them to repeat and practice existing social skills and learn social skills until they become positive habits. And so we're talking about positive feedback cycles, creating positive feedback cycles when often this population are in negative feedback cycles with the world. And so we'll talk a little bit about neurodivergence and neurodiversity, talk about the impact of social emotional cognitive challenges, SECCs. That's a term that I coined. I'll tell you about that. Talk a little bit about ableism and the negative cycles that kids with autism, ADHD, and learning differences may be in with the world, both with adults and with other children. And then we're going to quickly shift into actually your takeaways. I really want to have this talk be super practical so that you can have things that you can do tonight and tomorrow to make your life better, to help your child's life be better. And so we're going to talk about ideal support and treatment strategies, proactive structures to decrease anxiety, and we'll talk about the positive feedback cycles and how to create them. And quick note, I have a host of videos from talks like this, all about different aspects of supporting neurodiverse kids. It's on my YouTube channel. This slide with the QR code will appear at the end as well, but if you want to take a quick snapshot of the QR code, you can find all these videos. Please enjoy, hope they're helpful, and definitely like and subscribe. Another resource is some of the things I'm talking about. This talk tonight excerpts about the first third of my book. And if you want to learn, you have a hard copy of this and learn the other 2/3, it's the Social Emotional Guidebook, and the QR code on the left is the way that you can reach that and access that. And this slide will come up at the end as well. Now, when I'm working with a child across these different diagnoses, when I'm working with a child, I'm not thinking, oh, this child has autism. I'm not thinking about diagnosis ADHD. I'm looking at them as a human being with a range of social traits. Okay, so a range of social skills. And so the metaphor that really resonates with me is, or the analogy is this image of a graphic equalizer. So this is sort of like in old stereos and in recording studios. These bottom little rectangular things are all little sliders. So you can slide these up or down to create a different sound in your speakers, right? And you can see this one has about, I don't know, 32 tracks or so. And so what they represent to me is each of those sliders represents another social trait. A few of them might be related to reading social cues. Are some kids stronger or weaker in that? What about realizing that other people have different thoughts and feelings than they do? So they might be stronger or weaker in that. Assertiveness, flexibility, problem solving, right? Conversation skills. Each of these things is another slider. And this explains why we have something called the autism spectrum, and in fact, neurodiversity, and how that speaks to all these different diagnoses. So as I'm getting to know a client or a camper who I'm working with, I want to think about them as a human being. What are their social strengths? Where are they, working well already? And where are some of the lower parts, some of the more challenge areas, and how can we support and remediate them? In no way are we trying to change who they are. In fact, really best practice right now in the neurodiversity treatment world is to go really ultra strength based and to recognize all the things that the child already is doing that are successful and building out from there. And so, and acknowledging also, and which this slide speaks to, the fact that when a child struggles socially or struggles to engage in that neurotypical world, it's because their wiring is making it harder for them to either understand the social situation that they're in and the expectations, or their wiring might have made it harder for them to pick up inferentially the social skill, precisely what to do in that situation. So essentially, it's not their fault, it's the child's wiring that creates these little missing pieces in terms of how do I engage socially? How do I understand what's expected? And how do I engage? So really, any social miscue is because there's a gap there, right? And so we need to have compassion about that and watch out for the potential to create negative cycles. I'll talk about that on this slide. Too often, the kids that I work with, by the time they come to my programs, whether it's the summer program or in therapies, they've gone through the gauntlet. They've gone to school. And even kids as young as 4 and 5, if they are misunderstood by their caregivers or certainly by like their teachers where they spend hours per day, they often wind up in these negative feedback cycles, which is essentially, if I really sort of summarize for efficiency, it's like, back in your seat, get back in your seat. Johnny, back in your seat, back in your seat. No, that was inappropriate. Say you're sorry, right? So there's this very constant stream of perpendicular direction is what I call it. So that's usually from adults, and well-meaning, caring adults, but also who maybe don't exactly know what the kids need. But that's exactly the point of today's program. So we're going to talk about what does your child need, and also the negative feedback cycle they often are in with neurotypical peers in the sort of that mainstream group of kids is, why'd you do that? That was so weird. Leave me alone. Go away, right? So they're in that sort of a mode also. So a lot of negative feedback chipping away at their confidence, their self-esteem. And so our job, in my view, and today you're going to leave this talk, I hope, with a brand new identity. You are a social coach. If you are in this talk, you are being born today as a social coach. Possibly for the rest of your child's life. So we want to take the weight of the world off of their shoulders. How? Let's really vibe with and own the fact that it is not their fault. They simply don't know how to do it. This is who they are with their wiring. So again, we're not trying to change who they are, but with tips and with our support, we can help your child engage with the neurotypical world as best they can and hopefully decrease the level of stress and anxiety that they experience. And I believe that it's a moral imperative as a society to get this right. If we add up the incidence of all the different diagnoses and others that I mentioned and didn't mention, it's considered now that roughly around a quarter or more of the population is neurodiverse. And that's just people with the diagnoses. And additionally, there's people who have, certain traits and styles approaching that don't have the diagnosis. So if a full quarter of the kids that go into, the school or a camp or other, situations are neurodiverse, it's really important that the world understand these needs as we're talking about them. And I went to an autism conference last week, and every speaker said, what's good for the neurodiverse population, for someone with autism, is good for everyone. So if we can provide just the right structure, it'll benefit everyone. If we're teaching social skills, it benefits everyone. So what you're going to learn tonight is a method to make learning social and coping skills safe, fun, and comfortable while generating these positive cycles. And so we want your child to feel like this, not like the previous child in the corner. And so we're going to generate acceptance, patience, because we know that it's not their fault. There's a certain cognitive social gap. To a skill building approach. We want to see every social behavior as an opportunity to reinforce when it's positive. And if a social skill doesn't work, or if they don't know what to do, then we want to be in a teaching model, not that very traditional old school control and containment model. Control and containment is sit down, be quiet. That was inappropriate, say you're sorry, where the adults kind of patching things up in a hurry in order to get things looking smooth again, right? So we want to provide positive reinforcement, compassionate social coaching, and ultimately at the bottom in green is acceptance of who the person is now, but with a hopeful eye for tomorrow, next time. And so in my programs, what I teach our staff when I'm consulting with parents and professionals, if I'm consulting with a school and teaching them, I call it the ARCH method. So ARCH, ARCH, is an acronym for the 4 ingredients that I've come to create as my beautiful cake of social skills training that also creates acceptance as well for who the person is. Okay, so in the ARCH, the ARC and H, the A is anticipating and teaching. So knowing, we can sort of predict, because we know what generally are the challenges of people on the spectrum or with ADHD and beyond. And as we get to know an individual child and learn where their sliders are, where their strengths and weaknesses are, we're going to do some direct instruction in some social skills to fill in some of the blanks so they can better understand what the rest of the world kind of intuitively understands. And we want to provide structure proactively as well that helps to decrease anxiety and help them enter the social world in a more comfortable way. We're going to talk a lot about the A and the R tonight. The R is when your child is now out in the world doing their thing, whether they're at school, camp, they're at soccer, they're at drama after school, whatever they're doing, they are, life is a social skills group. Yes, you can always come to my social skills program, but life is social skills. They're surrounded by kids and other people. So here's where you become the social coach that I mentioned with the R, to reinforce and reward. So we're building up their motivation to repeat and repeat social skills until they become positive habits. So we're really going to do the deepest dive in the A and the R tonight. That's what we have time for. The C is compassionate social coaching and problem solving. So on the back end, when your child is in their social world, how do we handle and support them through the social miscues? So we're going to be talking about, we would talk about that another time. It's also in another video, which you can look at on my YouTube channel. And so compassionate social coaching and problem solving. And the H is creating a holding environment. That is where we use clear limits, boundaries, rewards, consequences to really wrap around a child's world. And that has to do with behavioral support and also behavioral shaping, sort of behavior modification, to help to increase certain positive coping skills and maybe help to, if they're really inappropriate or even deal breaker, like not unacceptable, like not okay behaviors, how do we help to fade them out? So that's the H. So that's what happens in the A, R, C, and H of the ARCH program. But tonight, we're going to do the A and the R deeply. Okay, so anticipate and teach. So now that we know that kids who are neurodiverse have these social cognitive gaps, they miss some again, awarenesses and skills, it's important to know that while they might inferentially be weaker inferentially at learning from the social world, they happen to be brilliant at learning in a very rote fashion. So if we can teach in a very engaging way, they can remember it. And so I want to share a number of core social concepts that you can use. It can begin to enter into your family's discussion, your family's vocabulary. And for this language, I use a lot for kids who are probably 12 and under, but the concepts are still true. I might just make the verbiage a little more mature if we're talking to middle schoolers or teenagers, and I'll tell you how to adapt it in a moment. But the core concept that we teach to launch any social skills program is the team for fun. It's the very thesis, in my mind, of all of socialization. Okay, so what does everyone want? To asking a child. Well, everybody wants fun. It's the three-letter F word. And in a group, I'll ask, okay, raise your hand if you want fun. And every hand goes up, every child. And so I say, look around, everyone. What do you notice? Every hand went up for fun, yes. So if two kids are together, how many kids are hoping to have fun in that interaction? Well, they go two. What if there are four kids together? How many kids are hoping to have fun? And by the way, fun is kid code for feeling good, feeling comfortable. It's not always like, you know, rainbows and jelly beans and everything, but just feeling good together is what fun means, I think, to kids. So, but all four do. And if seven kids are, all seven kids want fun, to feel good and comfortable. But the next question is, whose job is it to keep it fun, which is a trick question. For kids with social challenges, they often point to me and they'll be like, well, it's your job, Mr. Mike, or it's the teacher's job. But actually, I'll be, oh, good guess, but it's your job, your job, your job, your job, your job. It's everyone's job to keep the team for fun together. So we're establishing, essentially what I'm talking about, if we talk to you in grown-up language, is interdependence. Okay? You are counting on me to keep you comfortable, and I'm counting on you to keep me comfortable. And so if you're on the team for fun, it's important to get good reactions from others. And so the second core concept of social skills is action reaction, which is social cause and effect. For kids with ADHD and autism, often this is a critical social cognitive gap where they might be missing this. And so social cause and effect means that my behavior impacts other people, right? And so this has everything to do, this is a foundational skill that creates the ability to have empathy. It creates the ability to adjust behavior to consider other people's perspectives and keep other people happy and comfortable. So critical, super important to talk about this. So in the top left, you'll see a little teeter-totter, a little seesaw, with one little potato guy jumping down on the left, which sends the other little potato guy flying up into the air. So what's one of Newton's laws? For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And you can do this with your child. Just get a spoon and some like a magic marker in the middle. So you have a little teeter-totter, put a ball in the cup end of the spoon, and you can start, whack down on it, hit down really hard on one side, and you can talk to your child about, well, what's the ball doing? Can you predict what the ball's going to do? What if I just tap the one side lightly? Can you predict what the ball's going to do? What if this is my action? What's the reaction? What if I wham it? Can you predict the reaction to my action? So we're playing with the concept of action reaction. You can really make it come alive with this little demo, and kids love to send balls flying into the air. And then that leads to discussion of this magic formula. And so the magic formula reads, as you can see, if I act blank, that's the golden line, then kids will ... right? They'll think something about me. If I act in a certain way, they'll feel something towards me. And if I act in a certain way, they might do something back to me. That's the reaction. So think, feel, do. If your child is 7 or under, and you want to make this poster or something like it, just take away the feel and the do and just talk about, then kids will think something about you. So you can simplify it and have a little bit less language. So this if-then statement speaks to the fact that if I put a negative or unhelpful behavior in that yellow line, that golden line, then kids will think something negative about me. Conversely, if I put a really helpful, positive behavior in that golden line, then kids will think something great about me. And then you start to do examples. What if you're playing checkers and you're playing with the other person starts to get the upper hand, you've lost a bunch of pieces, the game is still not over, but you flip the board and you say, I hate you, you're a cheater, I'm never playing with you again, right? Right. So if I do that, if I act like that, then what's your friend going to think about you? Child thinks and they answer, well, I'm mean, not a good sport. So they'll put in kid level language for what the other person must think about them. And so then we, correct it and say, okay, well, next time, if you want them to think great things about you and feel comfortable playing with you next time, then what could you do instead? If you're losing, you still might be losing the game. What could you do instead? Well, especially if you want to get good reactions. Well, I could play out the game, say good game, and then say, hey, you want to play again, for instance, or something to that effect. And you go, yes, great thinking. All right, go out there and do that. So you can see that this poster, if you record this, take a snapshot of this, write it out, put it on your fridge, put it in a public place, or just keep it in a folder where it's accessible. You can use this proactively going into new social situations to prepare your child for how to act. Okay, this is what's expected at this birthday party. So if you act blah 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 this way, then you'll get really good reactions. People are going to really react really well to you. But if you do blah blah blah, if you scream and yell, whatever, if you get really upset, if you're upset and take a break, kids will think good things. So you can use it proactively going into new social situations. And you can also use the same poster on the back end after there's a social miscue or an eruption. Be like, ooh, okay, let's put this through our magic formula, right? So you can see it's great to review past behaviors and to come up with new positive ones. So you can use this really well for social coaching on the back end. Okay. Next. So now your child knows social cause and effect. We're going to go back to talking about the team for fun. And there's an unwritten social contract that holds together any relationship. This could be a marital relationship, people on a sports team, if they're working well together, if you're a really great theater cast, two friends, whatever it is, if they're working well, they've, in an unspoken manner, signed on to the team for fun agreement. We will stay close together by keeping each other happy and comfy. So we're going to stay together, close together in this relationship by keeping each other happy and comfortable. And now here's where we're advancing the story in this interdependence that we're talking about. There are two jobs that we oscillate between all day long, all week long, all life long. Okay, this is still like intro and foundational to social skills. Half the time, roughly, your job is to keep yourself calm and happy. That's the number one. The other half of the time, you're trying to think about other people's feelings and keep them calm and happy. And we swing back and forth between keeping myself calm and happy and keeping others calm and happy. And I have the story with my two potato people down here. And you can see that the left one is holding a tool, we're going to talk about in a moment. And the right one is holding a gift, which is also becomes some prompting language in our program. So the story goes, here we have Tweedledee and Tweedledum. Tweedledee is on the left, Tweedledum's on the right. And they are, congratulate them, give them a round of applause. They are close together, so they're on the team for fun. But then Tweedledum on the right starts to get a song stuck in his head, so he starts to hum. He starts to hum the song over and over. He can't get it out. It's an earworm. He's now humming this tune. Okay. Well, after a while, it starts to bother or irritate Tweedledee. So you can see there are some red dots on the right side of Tweedledee's belly down there. So that's because he's getting irritated. Well, now the team for fun is at risk. He's not going to stay there and be irritated. He needs to get some space. Something needs to change in order for him to stay close. So instantly, this tests the team for fun agreement. Now these two roles come in handy. So rule number one, keep yourself calm and happy. So let's say that on the left, Tweedledee needs to do something to try to get the humming to stop. So Tweedledee uses his tool, assertiveness, and says, hey, can you please stop humming? Can you please stop blank? This is written. Okay. So then I would tell my group of kids, congratulations, everyone. Everyone give Tweedledee congratulations because he has done his half on the team for fun. Excellent. But now the responsibility shifts over to Tweedledum, right? Tweedledum now has a job to do to save the team for fun. So what could Tweedledum do? Well, he's going to stop humming. I will change my behavior to keep you happy. Adjusting your behavior, which requires some flexibility, is quite a gift to the other person. It's not a tangible gift. It's a social gift. It's an emotional gift to adjust your behavior to keep others happy. And so he does. He decides, I'm going to hum. I'm just not going to hum around you. I'll hum later. So you can see this little spikes. I call them spiky behaviors, prickly behaviors. They swing around. They're poking out in a harmless way. They're not bothering anyone in the picture. So congratulate Tweedledum. Tweedledum has now done their job on the team for fun. These are the two jobs sort of illustrated. And every other social skill that I ever teach speaks to one of these. So the one on the left is sort of like self-regulation, assertiveness, calming down skills, pragmatic problem-solving skills is the tools. On the right side, the gift signifies all of the social engagement skills that keep someone to get close together, that keep relationships comfortable and working well, right? So every other social skill points back to these really foundational skills. So this is an example of putting the A in the arch, right? Of like, let's be proactive. Let's teach these social skills. Let's keep these concepts on the front of your child's mind, by talking
Can I
about them.
jump in with a question before you go to
Yeah,
the
this is a good time before we go on.
Okay, good. I was waiting for the good time. If a parent like myself has a tween or a teen, how is there another way you might
Yes.
okay, how would you reframe that for a slightly older child?
Let me see if I have it here. Oops. So I can pull up the image in a moment, but
Awesome. Yeah.
the language that I use, there's two ways to talk about it with teens. One, with teens often, we'll make this if-then poster the very first poster and social lesson, and we'll call it your reputation project. So instead of the Team for Fun project or the Team for Fun community, we'll call it your reputation project. So one angle to talk about it with teens is, again, action reaction, get the reactions that you want. So first you have to define what is a reputation? What does that mean? How do you achieve a reputation? Well, it's with this action reaction formula, right? You are out and about and other people see and hear what you do. And they form these thoughts about you and these reactions. And usually a reputation takes a long time. It takes a pattern of behavior. They'll see how you act. So if you do like one positive thing, if you've done a lot of challenging things that frustrate kids, if you do one thing, it's probably not going to change your whole reputation. But if you start to string together a number of like really positive social behaviors, doing your best with what you've been learning, you can actually create the reputation that you want. And I tell kids about how celebrities will go to PR firms and public relations reps and say like, okay, I'm a gazillionaire, I don't want people to think that I'm some stuck up spoiled person who is whatever. So I want to get involved with something that'll like, help me have a more rounded reputation. So then they'll get involved with a charity or this or that. So people do this all the time, intentionally craft the reputation that they want. And how do you craft your reputation? By thinking about, well, working backwards. What reputation would you like? Can you name it? How do you want people to think about you? Oh, I'm funny, I'm athletic, I'm, whatever. Okay, well then you should be doing behaviors that have you be funny, but not funny in a bothersome way, right? I want to be likable. Some kids say, I don't care if I'm liked, but I want to be respected. Like, so the older the child, the more nuanced their reputation image can be. Okay, so we sort of working backwards. This is the reputation you want. So just about every behavior that you do, that you put in that golden line, should help, convince others that you are that person in that way. I know I did something like that going from elementary school to middle school myself. I was very shy. Everyone knew me as Michael, but by then I was tired of being shy, quiet, and sort of anxious Michael. I was like, I feel more like a Mike. And so as middle school, I introduced myself to everyone as Mike, and I decided I wanted to like have like my sense of humor come out and be like, and so I created unwittingly, I realize now I wanted a new reputation, and that, change at that level gave me an opportunity to change my reputation in these ways. So that's one way. And then there's another way to talk about social skills. I once had a very resistant client. This is in recent years. So 20 years into working with neurodiverse kids, one kid was like, I don't care how people think about me at all. I don't give two bleeps. Um, and he was like, so I don't care about any of your posters or anything you have to say, Mr. Mike. And so I was like, oh, great. Now what am I going to do? So,
Awesome.
but I knew from, speaking to his parents and just getting to know his profile and who he is, that he really was involved with social justice, and he was really concerned with justice in the world. And I reframed the Team for Fun concept as still interdependence, but I called it the Better World Project because of this child. Because I was like, I went to him and I said, if you have you ever been in a place where one person could just ruin it for everyone else, ruin the experience? And he said, yeah, absolutely, a lot of times. So wouldn't that one person was pretty powerful, right? They could really ruin it for the whole group. He said, yeah. So I said, well, yeah, me too. And so that person actually was really powerful. But then by the same token, if that person maybe had slightly better social skills, or just tried a little harder with what they had and selected a better social behavior, couldn't they have made that same interaction better for others? He said, yeah. And so I draw like the planet Earth in this very pristine, glowing way. And then I draw another planet Earth that's like gray and like brown and black and like it's so toxic looking. It's got like, toxic steam coming out of it. And so there's like a better world, and there's like a toxic world. Which world would you rather live in? And this client said, I'd rather live in the better world. And so I said, yeah, me too. And I think that really, when we talk about social skills, really we're talking about creating a better world for you and for everyone around you. And you have that power. And then I got a little corny and I said, like, you have the whole world in your hands. So I drew a hand, holding the pristine world, but you have the whole world in your hands with social skills, and social skills can lead to a better world. And I hooked them. So now that leads to another way to talk about social skills for just the right child, and you can say, if you give them a little bit of the spiel, we're working on the Better World Project, and the world will be better, and we can create, a more just world, a more kind world, and move the world towards world peace if everyone were just using their best social skills and putting great social behaviors in the golden line. So that's another way that I talk about social skills with kids. Good? Helpful? All right, let's keep going.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Were there other questions? I saw there's 3 in the chat.
Not so far. That was me putting links to your YouTube channel and your book.
Okay, cool. So that's the teaching. That's the proactive teaching of skills. And ongoingly, when something goes wrong, that's an opportunity to teach a new skill. Oh, this is what was expected in that situation. So next time you're in a similar situation, you can do this. So we're sort of in this constant teaching mode. And then we're going to talk about the next piece, which is structure. Again, proactive structure. And so going visual for the neurodiverse population, managing themselves in space and time can be both confusing and anxiety provoking. So having things like a schedule of the morning, like, this is what you have to do from wake up. You can put a checklist that's visual for a young child. You can take a picture of toothbrush, clothes. It's good to have, you can have a photo of your child by the door. For instance, like in the wintertime when there's a lot of gear, they might have boots and a winter jacket and gloves. there's a photo of them in all those clothes so they can be like, okay, do I have that? Check. So you can help your child be more independent so you're not standing over them. What about your gloves? What about your boots? What about your backpack? So it all can be there. So going visual can really help. If after school time can be tricky, getting your child to have some relaxation time, but then getting to homework. If you have an after school just schedule, first we do this, and I would say collaborate with your child. What's going to work best for you? Do you need to relax and have a snack first and then do homework? Is it better for you to come home and just like knock out your homework and then you can relax the rest of the night? So let's work together on developing a schedule, write it down, right? And then there's so much less to argue about. Check the schedule, stick to the schedule. If time becomes a stressor, you don't have to have actual time on it. You can just have the sequence. But speaking of time, that bottom left image is a product called a time timer. It's a visual timer. And as you turn it, you open it, you sort of stretch that red field out for however many minutes you want your child to work on something. Or like, let's say, hey, you have 15 more minutes left of screen time. Okay, you turn it to 15 minutes, you put it in front of the child. They can see the time elapsing because otherwise time is invisible. If it's just a pointer on a clock, a hand on a clock, they might not follow it. So going visual really can help decrease power struggles, help your child know how to organize themselves in time and space. If your child gets stressed easily and overloaded with language, that top image is those are handheld dry erase boards. And so you can slip your child a note. You can also use sticky notes, but if you have one of these, you can be like dinner in 15 minutes, and so you can change it up. If your child was angry, if they were in sort of an angry mode, and if you do a verbal check-in with them, you might inflame them again. You might escalate them back to anger. But if you do, ready to talk question mark and check boxes, yes, no, slide it to them, they might, make a mark on it. They might scribble out the whole thing if they're still angry. But again, decreasing the verbal load when there's emotion can also help. So these are all structuring tools that can decrease anxiety and help your child be more organized on the home front. Again, just to help them be more successful. And I recommend the same for school. Give them visual timers and schedules to help organize. We're still in the A in the arch, and we're going to talk a little bit about creating some social expectations. So these do not have to be hard expectations, and there's no punishment or penalty if they don't do it, but it's helpful to name certain things that you want your child to do. So whether it's just a home behavior, like take out the trash on Tuesdays, or if you want them to practice a certain social or coping skill that they learned at school or in therapy, that could become a do list. So I call them do rules because as you're formulating them in your mind, you begin with the word do. So, do follow directions the first time you're asked, or by the third time you're asked. Do, parenthetically, use your calming strategies. So write them down. I call it WPP, write, publish, and post. So write it, publish it, show it to your child. These are things we're aiming for. If your child learned a certain coping skill or coping behavior in therapy, you can add that to a do list, and you're gonna see how they come in handy later. So, and this is what it looks like. So write, publish, and post, put it up on the fridge. And in our summer program, we do a ritual reading of the rules every day. I did a social skills group today where I stopped all the participants who are 5 and 6 at the door, and I have a sort of a do rule list that's like follow directions. In their case, it says keep safe bodies, right? Follow grown-ups directions. Mr. Mike's in charge, and so on. So do keep hands and feet to yourself, even if you're mad. But you can see it's poor English to have the word do in front of it, so eliminate the word do, and then you have a great positive statement. And it's important to have positive statements because we don't want to have rules like no. Like you can see, I do have number 2. It says no hitting, kicking, pushing, or biting. But if you have a rule that begins with the word no, okay, well, what's the child going to do instead? If they don't know what else you're asking them to do, which is called a positive replacement behavior, if they don't know what else to do instead, they're likely going to sort of relapse. They're going to fall back into their old habits. So tell them the North Star of what you're looking for them to do. Keep hands and feet to yourself, even if you're mad. Use Mr. Mike's calming down techniques and so on. So all that was anticipate and teach. We talked about teaching social skills, social concepts, keeping them in front of the consumer, so to speak, providing structure, and then writing these do rules, right? These positively worded expectations. Okay. Then your child is now living their life. They are at home, school, wherever they are, being their social being self. Now, the world is their social oyster, is their social skills group. And here's where you are the social coach. This is the critical space where you could unwittingly repeat the negative cycles that neurodiverse kids get into. Or after hearing this talk, you can really begin to push forward this positive cycle that we're aiming for. All right, so in social coaching, there are 2 essential tasks. There's 2 main things that you're doing. We're really simplifying for you. And so the default is the left, is reinforcement. So this is a kids balance scale. And so the default is we're tipping left. We're tipping towards reinforcement. We're going to reinforce positive behavior, right? And then, whoop, something just went wrong. We're going to tip into social coaching briefly, right? And then as soon as you're done social coaching, right back to reinforcing the positive. So these are the 2 main functions that you have. And here's where we get into the nitty-gritty of tonight's talk. This is your takeaway to create the positive skills that will help your child feel deeply seen and accepted, and it'll motivate them to repeat and practice social skills. All right. So we want to turn the negative cycles that I mentioned at the beginning positive. How to do it? There's a skill called attending to the positive. And I did not get this out of a book about neurodiverse children. I got this out of a book called Parenting the Strong-Willed Child. Okay, and so attending to the positive is observing small micro behaviors and choices that your child's doing, small decisions, right? And then you're noticing them, and then you're saying it. So you see it and say it. Now, why? And anyone, feel free to unmute yourself if you like. Why would a grown-up possibly loving people, you love this child, you're caring for the child, why would you get into a negative cycle? Well, it's actually natural. And so there's no blame at all. I have kids who are pretty grown now, but they could, and I'm an expert, I teach this all the time, and they could suck me into negative cycles. So, but here's why, in my view, this is why we can really easily get sucked into negative cycles, okay? It's because you and I, we get up in the morning, we're trying to get through our days, right? We wake up, we hustle, we're tired, we get the kids moving. Oh, and that's hard labor. We get them going, okay, they're off to school. Then, now I'm dealing with all the things that I have to do during the day, all my responsibilities, wherever I am. And I need to get through all that to get home again. Here are the kids again, where we're working with the kids, supporting them, dinner time, bedtime. And maybe, if I'm lucky, just maybe, I will get 15 minutes to put my feet up, maybe a half hour to binge watch one show before it's bedtime and we start all over the next day, right? So we really count on things to go well. And I know that I take for granted all the time during the day when the kids are on task and working well. So what do I comment on? As soon as they mess up, or as soon as my kids are conflicting, all of a sudden I'm like, hey, and I'm giving them attention. And now I'm in correction mode because I have to get back on my path on my day. So that's my sort of interpretation of why the most loving, attentive parents, we all can get sucked into negative cycles because we take for granted those moments. We're counting on them to help us get through our day. And then whoop, there's the mess up. And now we've got to tamp that down so we can get back on our path. All right. So let's undo that today. To do that, we need to talk about the skill of attending. And there's a quick way that you can learn it and practice it. If you were to do this exercise, if you watch your child, or a child, any child, but it's less creepy if you're watching your own, and for 5 minutes, you can set a little timer for 5 minutes. Watch them doing anything, but especially at play. Okay, and then you're going to sit down, perhaps with a little notebook, or you can do it mentally. You can just notice. And what you do is you notice every little micro behavior that they make in decision. And I'll sort of narrate it so you can get a sense of what I'm talking about. So let's say that you're observing a child who's about to just play with Legos. Okay, so the observation begins now. So child gets down and you go, okay, see, he's got his big bin of Legos and he dumps it. It's loud. And that's going to be a big mess to clean up. All right, so he dumps it out. Right now, he picks up a spaceship that he already started. He's rotating it in his hands. He's looking at it all different angles. Yeah, he picks up a red piece. No, he changes his mind, puts the red piece down, picks up a gray piece. He starts to put the gray piece on. He pressed too hard. It crumbled in his hands. He stayed calm. He's repairing the ship. His ship's all repaired. He picks up that gray piece again, puts it on more carefully. Okay, rotates, begins, picks up the other things, and off he goes, right? So you can see in my brief narrative of what I've just pretended to observe, each one of those motions, picking up the ship, he selected that. Rotating it, that's a micro decision. Every move that he made was a little mental activity that was like an on-off switch. I did that, don't do that. Red piece, no. Decision, choice. Gray piece. So each of these things is a little mental activity that it took to create that behavior. So step one is, let's just notice how many little itty-bitty micro moments there are in a child's day where they're processing and then they're making a choice. Now, of that, what are we going to observe? If we're trying to create positive cycles, let's start to pay more attention to the positive micro decisions and behaviors, right? We're going to call them out. Let's go to the next slide. And when possible, we'll do what I call targeted ignoring for negative behaviors, which means if there's a behavior that really doesn't harm anyone, it doesn't impact anyone, it doesn't ruin the flow of the day of the family, I'd say let it go. Can we ignore that? Like, let's just let that go. And we're going to save your coaching for things that really impact someone. Someone else was offended. Someone's feelings were hurt. It delays the family getting out the door. Those are things that are worth commenting on. But if there's other micro, small things, let's do targeted ignoring. Now, the skill of attending, the strategy or the orientation to the child is to do targeted positive reflection, TPR. This is the skill that I've taught every staff person at Camp Pegasus and the parents, the schools that I consult at. Everyone learns and employs TPR. So building on this idea of attending to the positive, now you're going to put your mouth where your mouth is. All right, so you're going to see the behavior and say it. It's got to come out of your mouth because of this picture. The photo that you see up here is a picture of a person taking a snapshot of another person. And that's what it effectively does. When you are verbalizing what your child's doing, you're reflecting what they're doing. You're taking a snapshot of that moment. For the child who is neurodiverse, who's bopping through their day without a tremendous amount of self-awareness, they don't know which of their behaviors were the more helpful ones or the less helpful ones. But when you name it and say, you were so flexible. You two worked it out. What a great compromise, these kind of things, then you've just taken a snapshot of that moment. That's really helpful, right? Why? Because for the child who is not figuring out which are the better or less help or better or worse behaviors for the moment, When you name it, a person who they care about says, um, that was so flexible with a happy voice. You just validated it. You made that real. So we're taking snapshots and putting the positive behaviors in your viewfinder. What are you saying? What are you focusing on? Any social behavior. If you're giving instructions, you can say, thanks for putting down the iPad and looking my way. I don't demand eye contact, but I do want the child to orient to me at least so they're showing me that they're not distracted. Um, so social behavior, coping efforts. Yes, wow. You took that break when you were frustrated. That was awesome. Snapshot, right? TPR, targeted positive reflection. Any work habits, you are still working at that. You are not giving up. Wow. You really prepared for that test. So work habits and every decision and choice. And here's how we do it, right? And so the benefits of TPR is that it generates joining. Your child feels like you are with them. If you're constantly calling out all the big and little things that they're doing that are helpful, thanks for holding the door. I really appreciated that you brought your dish to the counter after dinner. So you can give TPR for everyday things that you kind of expect. Thanks for holding the door for me. And you can save big TPR with high fives and hugs for big social moments. So your child feels like you're with them. It decreases the demand load and that adversarial feel if you're feel like you're constantly correcting. If you're meeting your child exactly where they are, if you're commenting on what they're doing, that's where they are, right? You're right with them. So you're in the now with them. It's very zen. And kids feel deeply heard. So a lot of reasons to notice what your child's doing and then verbalize it. I have a few slides where I want to give you a few scripts just to illustrate some types of things that you can say, right? So TPR is really all about you. Because if you use the word you know that you're talking about the child and reflecting. So again, to help a child learn that they have agency, they can direct their lives in positive ways. We reflect decisions. So, wow, you decided to do this. You decided to do that. You changed your mind. Name that. Take that snapshot. Again, so that alone is reinforcing. You can reflect all the problems that they solve. You did it. You figured that out. Amazing. If there are two kids involved, you have siblings, or if you're in a group, wow, you two worked it out. You two got back to fun. Awesome. Do that again. And my lived experience is once a child flashes a social skill once, that proves that they can do it. That proves that their neurology was able to create that moment. And so if we can catch it and reinforce, hopefully they can do it a second time. And a second time become a third time and on. Right? That's really the essence of any skill building. If you're learning to ride a bike or play guitar, it's the same idea, but flash the skill once and then repeat and practice. And that's what TPR is. So we're being very reinforcing. We're validating these social behaviors, and that motivates your child to do it again. Right? You can also reflect play. And so remember the team for fun concept. If that's a part of your family's vocabulary, you can say, "Wow, you're a team for fun. You're playing so close together." You can also, if you're doing the Better World project, say, "Wow, that was a Better World moment." Great choice there. You're playing so close together. Fun. You invited them to play. That's awesome. You can reflect conversation skills. So this is often for sort of older kids. So the middle school, older. What a great conversation question. Way to bounce that conversation to the other person in the family. Wow, you are so curious about them. Great follow-up. A great follow-up question. Letting the child know when they've done something really helpful in a reciprocal conversation. And lastly, pragmatic language. Pragmatic language is the language that people use to navigate the social world. So like assertiveness, problem solving, that type of thing. And so, you can say like, way to stick up for yourself. Awesome compromise. You use your words. That's awesome. Right. So I might be overusing the word awesome tonight.
Possibly.
So did you
I
hear
tend to
that?
do that too.
Awesome. All right. So TPR though, creating positive cycles that reinforce. Next, I do want to talk about um, watching out for things that kids can do that might suck you back into a power struggle or suck you into a negative cycle. And probably the biggest one is when a child's frustrated and their voice sounds disrespectful, they're coming at you, and they'll say, "You're the worst parent ever," right? Or "I'm not doing this stupid homework." Their voice is really angry, it's very nasty, it sounds disrespectful, you know. Now, if you comment on the content, well, how dare you? That's disrespectful. You don't talk to an adult that way. Would you talk to your grandparent that way? Would you talk to your teacher that way? If you get into all that, now you're talking about the content of the sort of the anger, right? And now you're in a power struggle going back and forth. But you've lost sight of two things. One, what was the original thing you were kind of talking about or working on? Were you trying to do social coaching? Were you trying to get them to go brush their teeth for bed? But now you're talking about disrespect. So it's a smokescreen also for the child, and it can suck you into this power struggle, and now both of you feel awful. So I call it complex reflection. So you're not going to reflect the words that they're saying or the content, you're going to reflect the emotion beneath it. So here, instead of, you're the worst parent ever, you go beneath the surface, but you're really mad right now. What's going on? Right? Go beneath the surface. I'm not doing this stupid homework, right? So if you're like you're talking back, you're never going to get your homework done, you're never going to go to college, blah, blah, blah. If you're in that debate about whether or not you're going to do the homework, power struggle city, negative cycle. Beneath the surface, you sound super frustrated. What's making it so hard to get started tonight? Your child says, "Oh, I didn't understand the directions. The teacher doesn't blah blah blah." Right? Now you're involved in problem solving. So going beneath the surface of disrespect begins problem solving. And also you're giving them empathy. Your child is heard. So a little different than TPR, I call it complex reflection. Does that make sense? Anyone have any questions about that?
That makes a ton of sense. I'm just processing. I'm not sure what my questions are.
Yeah, that's okay.
I'm trying to preemptively figure out what my son would say next, and then what's my next move. Typically, it would be, "I'm not mad," or "Yeah, I'm frustrated. You're making me frustrated," which doesn't necessarily go the way you said, but we just keep at it, right?
Yeah. So I'm like, I hear you. That is frustrating. I can be frustrating. I know. Well, let's take a break. Let's pause them. Okay, let's pause. Once you establish that the child is frustrated, maybe we should just take a break from this for a moment. You know, um, in my other talk, and there's one that's on YouTube and it'll cycle through again in the community. But I do a talk on frustration and anger. And this phase, I would say, of anger, in my mind, there are four levels of frustration leading up to meltdowns. And it's like purple phase is happy, yellow phase is a little frustrated. Girl, I'm frustrated. Orange phase is like, you're the worst parent ever. Child's not out of control yet, but they're definitely expressing high levels of frustration. And so in the orange phase, in this phase, when you hear this, you want to, start with, okay, you're really upset. Okay. And then back off of expectations. So let's say we're talking about homework. So I would say, okay, I'm not saying we have to do homework right now. We're going to pause homework because your child's feeling like they're kind of cornered, right? They're a caged tiger. They're in the corner. And so they're going to lash out. It's their last defense before they lose it or get overwhelmed. So they go, "I'm not doing this homework." "Oh, you sound super frustrated." And I'll try to see what's making it hard to get started if I can. If they'll answer that, we'll go there. But if he continues to lash out and says, well, you're making me frustrated, I'll be like, all right, let's pause. I'm not saying we have to finish this homework now. We're going to pause homework and just take a break. And then the second thing you can do at this level before, to help hopefully avoid meltdowns and big arguments is you can offer some acceptable choice that's nurturing. Do you want to get out of here? You want to take a walk and shoot some baskets, or do you want to get a snack? So acceptable choices. You can offer two things maybe that are really okay that would help to diffuse the situation.
Awesome.
pause, and you can always come back to it. So that's another option. And this suggestion is a little bit related to um, collaborative problem solving by Ross Greene. If you guys, anyone know Ross Greene?
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, if you look up Ross Greene, collaborative problem solving, CPS, it's a pretty well-known approach to helping explosive or angry kids avoid meltdowns and get into problem solving. And so that dovetails nicely with this skill. So if you're a reader and want to look at that, that's a really influential and like very currently popular book in the therapy world and in certainly in working with neurodiverse kids.
Thank you.
Yeah. So here's targeted ignoring. We can get a little more into this. And so sometimes when kids are doing things that are obnoxious, um, you know, things that we would call sort of attention seeking, kids like, banging, like there's like tapping, tapping, tapping. Hey, can you please stop that? And they get louder, right? So these are also behaviors that might suck us into a power struggle. And so some ways to diffuse that are to comment not on the behavior, but to comment on their emotion or their intention, or what do you need? You're showing me that you need something, right? So for instance, I've had some kids certainly in groups. I've had groups of 3 to 8 over the years, and someone's doing something that's kind of attention seeking, and then they're not listening to other kids asking them to stop. I ask them to stop, and they're not listening, and so I'll say, Johnny, looks like you really want my attention. You got it. Now I know sometimes adults we get a little bit I'll call it passive aggressive, and we see a child who's doing attention seeking behaviors, and so we're like we want to do the opposite and totally ignore it, but then they're just going to escalate. They're going to do more outrageous behaviors to get the attention that they're seeking. So instead, I try to catch it early. The minute that I realize, oh, this is attention seeking, I turn right to them, and I'm like, okay, Johnny, looks like you really want my attention. You got it. I'm here, and I'll be quiet. How can I help you? What do you need? And sometimes that diffuses the whole thing because now they have my rapt attention, and they might say, "Oh, nothing." Say, well, your words are saying that you don't need anything, but your behavior is showing me that you want something. Great question. This question. The next question, what's up, is straight out of that CPS Ross Greene book. What's up? What do you need? I'm here. I want to give you what you need. Now, if you start talking about needs, you have to also clearly define a need versus a want. Because some kids will say like, I need a half hour more of iPad time or YouTube. So that's a want. That's not a need, right? So we have to really clearly define. A need is something that you can't live without this minute. You will really struggle emotionally or physically without it. Truly, if really very literally define a need, you will die without this. What do we absolutely need? Well, we need water, shelter, air, food, right? And so these are the things that we need to survive. So what do you need right now? Is there something that you need? I need some space. I need a break. Oh, okay. Thanks for letting me know. If you give them what they need, the behavior usually will stop if it's behavior as communication. So another thing you can think of possibly, if you know that your child does this kind of thing, this might be a slide that you remember from tonight. Well, looks like you want my attention. I'm here. You got me. I'm here to help. Next. So now we've created the TPR. You're attending to the positive. And some parents and teachers who I work with and adults, for them, it's a little bit of a weird way to talk. By weird, I mean it's different. We don't always do this. As I said, most of the time we sort of take for granted when our kids are on task. So it feels a little weird at first, but any staff person that I've ever worked with at my programs will tell you within actually minutes, if you just do this for a little while, it almost becomes second nature. And the parents that I've spoken with and talked about with this, about, I can't finish that sentence.
We know what you mean.
Thank you. Um, they've told me that doing TPR, they found actually is a much lower energy output than all of the power struggles and wrangling and pleading with the child and then dealing with meltdowns on the back end. When you create these positive cycles, you might find that there's less conflict. Your child's a little bit more open. You're making so many deposits in their emotional bank. They're a little more open when it's time for you to set a limit or to give a direction. And so they really said like it took a low level steady output of energy versus the big lift when things are falling apart. So that's TPR. Now, you can still layer on top of that another level of positivity, and this is a reward system. Now, I have come up with this based on research and application, trial and error, and ultimately this is, in my experience, kind of the best way to both respect the child's independence and who they are, while also applying some behavioral principles. I know that in the neurodiversity world, uh, ABA has gotten and behaviorism has gotten a bad rap, and for a lot of really valid reasons. But if we totally throw the baby out with the bathwater, like parents for millennia have been using behavioral methods with their children. This is how we socialize our children. This is how children learn how to be human beings in the society that humans have created. So let's not sort of throw everything out with the bathwater. And this is my fun way to make it work. So we call this the mindful, sloppy, relationship-based, and carnival-style reward system. I'll tell you why it's all of those things, okay? So in mindfulness, you're really getting very much in the now, right? You're getting very good at focusing on the present. It's very zen. And so when you're giving TPR, if you're really into it, your mind is very much on the now. You're not thinking too far ahead. You're not thinking about the past. What's my child doing now? Because I have to comment on it, right? I'm attending to the positive. So it's mindful. It's sloppy because I'm going to suggest that you create some tokens. In my programs, we use paper clips. We call them chips in our program. And so you get little pinches. So sometimes the child might get 2 paper clips. Sometimes they might get like 7 by accident. So I'm just taking little pinches. And this sloppiness, quote unquote, randomizes it. And behaviorists know that randomized reinforcement, actually helps the subject to work more steadily for their prize versus if you're like, you're going to get one now, you're going to get one, if you hit them at one at a time, then they're like, well, I don't feel like doing it just for one chip right now. I'm not in the mood. So sometimes it demotivates them. But having it be randomized, they never know if they're going to get like 7 chips or if they're going to get 1 or 15. So little sloppy pinches of things actually sort of keeps them engaged. The reason why I call it relationship based is you can layer this type of real-time reward system right on top of TPR. So you don't have to do anything different. So while you're giving TPR, you're just like, okay, well, great, great job stopping. So you can listen to me, bucks for you, or tokens for you. Wow, you and your sister worked that out. That's bucks. If your child does something that's especially hard or a breakthrough moment, you can be excited. That's your opportunity to really shower them with bucks and be like, yes. So make sure that your tokens are matching your enthusiasm for the moment. Okay. So let's say you've been working on temper with your child and coping skills, and your child is now, they're about to hit their sibling, their fist is balled up, they're ready to let it fly, and you can see them think for a second, that first time, and they lower their fist and they go to a calming down spot. You should be in this relationship base, like, you did it, for the child who won't be overwhelmed by that that level of expression. Very anxious and sort of self-aware kids might be overwhelmed if you're like too gushy. Mm-hmm. But feel free to gush for the child who will benefit from that. You did it. Here, just take all the chips. Just take all the chips. That was incredible. Why? Because remember that I said, if you can get your child to do that hard behavior one time, that proves that they can do it. So let's heap on the rewards the first time. You can be excited about it, high fives and hugs. And then hopefully that'll really motivate them. Oh, I should do that again. Wow, that was great. And then you can go back to, like, randomizing it. So that's why it's carnival style reward. And then finally the carnival style is because we're going to have 3 levels of prizes also to make it fun. Did another question come in about this?
Nope. I linked to, I think, the correct off screen book, The Explosive Child.
Yes, The Explosive
Okay,
Child.
great. And since I'm talking, I'll say we implemented something similar to this the last time I heard your presentation, but I completely missed the sloppy part. So we're going to work on that. I think
Okay.
that's why
Well,
it
each
hasn't
time you
been
hear it, yeah,
particularly exciting.
yeah. Each time you hear it, you'll pick up one little nugget because I'm kind of laying a lot on you in one
That's
in
my
one.
nugget for today, is the sloppy aspect. We're, giving one thing each time, but I now hear how much more exciting it would be to have it be overblown and throw all the, we're not using paper clips, but all the paper clips.
Yeah,
We can definitely work on that piece.
yeah. So for home, I call it like a buck system. So you can make funny money, you can use popsicle sticks, you can use marbles, whatever you want, whatever you have. But it should be something that's convenient. And so once again, here's how you employ this reward system. You're just going to layer it right on top of TPR. Okay. Match the intensity of the moment with your voice, your excitement, giving tokens randomly. And we're going to talk about 3 levels of prizes. If you want to make bucks for your child, sometimes it's fun to involve the child in the creation of their reward system. So you can, take a piece of copy-sized paper, fold it half, half, and half, and you'll wind up with 8 rectangles. You can draw boundary lines in there, and then you can, pre-structure it if you want. Your child can just decorate them any way that they want, and you can call it Mike money or Kathy cash, or some people call it fun bucks, whatever you want to call it. And so then you have these 8. Photocopy it if you have access. Try to get access to a photocopier. You can go to a library and say, can I make 10 copies? And so then you have them, cut them out, and now you have 80 or more of this funny money. When you get up in the morning, when you're getting moving, shove some in your bag, shove some in your pockets, and you have them. And then throughout the day, you're already giving TPR, and now you can add these bucks. Okay, cut them out. So now you have the bucks. It's helpful to have maybe like a central bank of them in the house. So there's one place, maybe like in a common public area, where your child can get all involved in, well, how many bucks do I have right now? I have 19. Oh, I'm going for 20. When I get 20, I'm going to get a certain prize. So you want to get your child involved in the excitement. They're intrigued with how many bucks they're getting. It's randomized. You're excited. We want this to be fun because sticker charts are anal, boring exercises that everyone's going to forget in about 4 days. But this really kind of captures the child, and you want to rope them into the intrigue of it. And here and we do this in my offices. We have 3 levels of prizes in our social skills program: small, medium, and large. Now, just a couple of notes on coming up with prizes. The adult has the final say in what the prizes are, and it has to always match your family's values. So if your family, just says, like, no, our family does not do food prizes. Okay, that's fine. So, but maybe you can see 15 minutes of iPad time. Don't go with the medium prize. It's there. We can go to Five Below for a medium prize. Some families like to do like events or like activities, sleep over with cousins. Let's go to the Franklin Institute, to a science museum. Some families are willing to do food prizes, whatever it is. Some families might want to do money. Some families might want to do material things like little plastic dollar store prizes, whatever you want. But I do suggest that you actually work collaboratively with your child, find out what they might be interested in as a small, medium, and large prize. You just approve them. Some kids will say, like, I'd like a Porsche, and so you can say, well, that's a little bit outside of our large prize budget. So you just say, we can't do that. Can you try again? Can you come up with something else? So work together, you come up with 3 levels of prizes, and you can see, and I don't have numbers associated. It's a small, medium, large. You'll want to come up with a number. What is the chip threshold or the buck threshold So for very young kids who don't have a great amount of delay of gratification, let's make it, you know, 10, 20, 30, you know. So at 10 it doesn't take them long to get $10, and then they can get their first prize and you can hook them. And then they're, oh, this is great. And so you can ask them, hey, like, which prize are you going for this time? Like I said, I'm going for the big one. Okay, good luck. You know, we're rooting for you. Believe me, we want you to get it, because if they're getting their prizes, that means they're working on their stuff. And so again, with the chips and with your TPR, you can give, again, randomize it, but um, as you go, remember way back in the beginning of my talk, we talked about creating the list of do rules. Do rules, you can assign bonus bucks. So let's say one of the do rules has to do with calming down, for instance, or well, let's stick with calming down. So, or using one of their anger management, coping skills. You can say proactively, you can write down, okay, that is going to be worth, anytime you do that, that's $10 right there, because our family thinks that is so important. So you can assign bonus bucks to a do rule, especially if it's of high therapeutic value. And so they know that they're going to get some lavish amount of bucks towards it. And then one more note about the numbers, for older kids, it could be like 20, 40, 60. If a child's getting their prizes too quickly because you're just so liberal with your buck, which is okay, simply up the thresholds, the numbers they have to get. So it could be 33, 66, 99 if they're getting their prizes too quickly. So you can always adjust it. And the language that I use is I say, wow, you're getting so good at this. This is getting so easy. We're gonna challenge you a little bit. Instead of, whatever, 15, 30, 45, we're gonna go 33, 66, 99. So we're gonna challenge you. We believe in you. So you can always up the number of chips or bucks that they have to get as well.
And like,
So
I'm
it's
wondering this, like if your child has, mine, for example, also has working memory issues. So are we getting around that by all the stuff you talked about early on, like write, post, publish, we're anticipating, we're talking about it in advance.
absolutely. We
We
want
can't
all these
just,
things to be written.
right. We can't just throw this prize system out there and hope he'll remember the do behaviors, right?
Right, right. Usually, at first, it's very easy and quick for parents to start with the TPR, right? You're just starting. You're going to practice doing TPR. Let's see how I get used to that. Just do that for a while. And some kids don't even need the prizes. Sometimes, if you just start to layer in all the positivity, they'll start to be more amenable. They might start to practice and repeat some of the things that you're looking for. So TPR alone. Then, if there are certain sticky behaviors, if your child's not coming around, then you might say, okay, we're going to put on some more of this external motivation, right? We're going to add some more of this external leverage with the prizes. And then it might seem complicated because of how much language it takes for me to explain it. But once you say, like, we think you're working on such important stuff, we want you to have prizes, if you do it. And what child is going to say no to prizes, right?
Right.
So, okay, they're down with prizes. All right. And so then you go to, well, let's make the bucks. Here's how we're going to do it. And so they could make the bucks. If their child's like, I don't want to make them, say, all right, we're going to use marbles, whatever, clothespins, whatever you want to do. Okay, so we're going to use those. And so some kids will be like, I'm not doing it. If you might have an oppositional child who's like, this is stupid. Here is my response to that child. And I've used
I was
this. This
wondering
works.
that.
I've done this live and in person with resistant kids, oppositional kids. Okay, well you can refuse. You don't have to count the chips or anything, the bucks, whatever you're using. But or mom and dad, we're still going to do it. We're still going to just be doing it. We're going to notice. We're going to give you credit for the stuff you're doing. We're going to be giving them, and you'll decide. Now, once the bucks get to a certain number, and if the parents count, you say, you know what, you actually qualify for one of your prizes. Now, this oppositional child is going to say no to a prize.
Right.
I'm not kidding. Like, it's I'm batting 1,000.
Right.
They've
Right.
never turned it down once. If
Yeah.
you just don't be cowed by their resistance. You're like, yeah, we're just gonna do it. You don't have to participate. Once you get to prize time, they're in.
Right.
And then like, okay, well, you got this prize. What do you want to work on next? And boom, I say you're in.
Awesome. Now
And
you
so this
got
is
me
what it
saying
looks like,
awesome.
you know. So you make some kind of bucks or some token, whatever you're going to use, come up with the prize options, write, publish, and post. You'll put it up in a public space so you can always do it. Again, you can revise it as well. It's flexible because let's say your child gets their medium prize and they're like, I don't want to go to Five Below again, or like, we just went to Prize Cream.
Mm-hmm.
You can cross it out and you can add a new prize there. What would be a new medium prize? So it's so flexible. You can keep updating it and giving them new things to work towards that's motivating. And finally, when it's time to cash in prizes, I just out of just experience and error, trial and error, weekends, I would say like automatically any prize is going to be cashed in given on the weekend because I have had a number of clients who, would get their prize, at 7:45 on a Tuesday, and so then they're like, we're going to Five Below, we're going to Dairy Queen now, and the parents are like, it's 15 minutes before bed, you've got your siblings, they're already in the bathtub, we can't do it. And then that led to a meltdown. So we've had meltdowns over this. So if again, proactively, if the child knows any prizes are earned on the weekend, okay, then there you go. Then you have 2 whole days to really kind of schedule when you can go and grant the prize. Actually, another thing that comes to mind that I might not have said the last time I presented this is, what about siblings? They might feel like it's not fair, and also the child, your identified child who we're talking about, might feel like they're singled out. You can apply this to everyone in the family. You can just make it a family culture, and every child is working on something. Maybe child number 2 is working on being responsible with their with something in their room, or like using their bike or scooter more safely, or so you can apply this, give them a do rule. So you know neurodiverse child, here's your do rule, but you can give do rules to the other kids on developmental things that they're working on, put them on our slappy reward system, and so then no one's singled out and everyone's working on stuff. you know we're almost at the end of our time, and we're almost at the end of my slides. Here's a biggie. Here's one more way. So now you have TPR. Potentially, if you wanted to, you can layer in a reward system that's real time, right? It's going to reinforce their social skills in real time. But there's one more thing that can absolutely suck any child and parent into a negative cycle, and that's when you're giving instructions and the child might not listen. Well, now what do we do? I'm not going to be giving TPR for them not listening. How do we handle this? So, compliance enabling instruction. A lot of the kids, remember we talked about how most of the time when there are ineffective or unhelpful behaviors, it has to do with a social cognitive gap, right? There's a skill gap, perhaps. So if you are just giving instructions, you're calling up from downstairs, hey, all right, 15 more minutes of iPad time, then brush your teeth, get ready for bed. That is not compliance enabling instruction. There's a good chance your child's not going to hear that because the kids that I work with have this hyper focus thing. If they are at that point doing something that's a preferred activity, that child is likely going to be, deeply focused on it. They're not going to hear your words from 2 rooms away and down the stairs. So what I suggest is, if you want your child to not have your blood boiling and have you go running up there to say, didn't you hear me? Come on, I gave you these instructions 5 times. Here's what you do. So first, you really must ensure that you have your child's attention because of this hyper-focus thing. And I can speak from personal experience. I am a bit of a hyper-focuser myself, probably have undiagnosed ADHD. I've self-diagnosed now years later. In the 80s and 70s and 80s when I was growing up, these diagnoses really weren't made very often. So, but looking back, I could be, focusing on my comic books, obsessed with the visual, the excitement of my comic books, or drawing them. And so, eyes down, glued. And my parents, I think, had been calling me or trying to get my attention from downstairs, and I didn't hear a word. And then inevitably, one of my parents would come up and say, Mikey, we were calling you. We called you 10 times. You didn't answer. You didn't come down. And so now their blood's boiling and they're yelling. And I was like, I didn't hear you. Why are you yelling? This is the experience of so many of my clients. So there, you're not going to love this, but there's really quite an investment. If you take a few extra steps and go to the room where your child is, so again, but you're going to save yourself 7 repetitions of your direction if you're calling from a different place. Even if you're in their room, the same room as them, if you're calling, hey, Johnny, they still might not hear you. You'll know, you can show, they can show you that you have their attention if they orient to you. No, I'm never saying to make your child, especially someone on the spectrum, to give eye contact. We're not talking about eye contact, but you want the child to break from whatever they're focused on to at least orient to you. So if I'm looking over here, orient to you so that they're showing that they're ready to take in your information, your instructions. Second, on your way to give the instructions, kind of gather your thoughts, be brief and clear. So say what you mean what you say, and don't give a super long preamble. We have these 10 things to do today. We have this, and this, and this. So we need you to get ready to go in the car. The shorter version is, hey, we're heading out for a bunch of errands, right? That saves the whole long list of language. We have a bunch of things to do today. We need you to be ready to get in the car in 15 minutes. So let's get your mind ready. That's another more cueing language for my program. Get your mind ready for a transition. And so in 15 minutes, we'll need you to be ready. Once again, if you have the structure of a visual timer, I'm setting the visual timer. Before the red disappears and it beeps, we'll need you to be downstairs with your sneakers on. So be brief and clear. We'll need you to be ready in 15 minutes to get in the car. And then lastly, patience. I would say more than half of the kids that I work with are slow processors. And when someone is a slow processor, that does not mean that they're dumb. It doesn't mean that they are inferior or in any way. You can have 2 people with the exact same IQ, 2 people with precisely average intelligence, according to IQ tests, at 100 IQ. But then a teacher will ask the question of those 2 kids, okay, raise your hand if you know the answer. What is 12 minus 7? The child who's the fast processor goes, ooh, right? They're the ooh kid, and their hands up, and they're call me. The child next to them, who's a slow processor, has to think about it for a second, do the math, and then their hand goes up about 5 to 7 seconds later. Okay, and they have the right answer. So you can see it's not about smart or dumb. It's not about incorrect or correct. They simply need more time to process the language, produce the answer, and then be able to communicate it. So if you're asking a child to do something, get their attention, be brief and clear, not too much language, and then I would say count, literally give like 5 Mississippi, like 1 Mississippi, like so it's a full second, 2 Mississippi, 4. And I've had dozens of parents over the years who have heard me talk about this come back to me later and give me feedback, and they say, oh my gosh, my child actually is compliant. Like they're not being oppositional. But if we stand over them and say, come on, stop, hurry up, let's go, sneakers, then like each time we say another thing, their mind has to process it. So we're slowing them down and we're raising their frustration. So give your instruction, back off, count to 5 or 7, and see if your child goes, okay. And they start to move towards where you want them to go. Then you go right back to TPR. Yes, you are heading in the right direction, right?
I can say I've done the counting and waiting since the last time I heard this, and it's highly effective. I think a lot of our kids that are on the spectrum also have maybe some auditory processing challenges. So not only is my son a slow processor and the waiting helps, but if I recognize like, oh, and the TV's on in the background, I need to address that before I can even, he can't hear both or he can't attend.
Yes.
Both. So that's a sort of related with
pause?
separate challenge.
Yeah. My wife has learned that if I have sports on in the room, and even if I orient to her, my ears are still listening. And then if there's like flashing of light, the flashing like it changes the screen, or if there's suddenly like a cheer, I'm like, whoop. I'm looking back. Pause. Can you pause? We can pause so many things now. I have to pause it so that I can really orient to her.
Yeah.
So I'm aware as an adult, I'm now aware of my neurology. And because I care about my wife, I'm giving a lot more effort to do these things.
Mm-hmm.
But children don't know that. So, okay, let's pause. We can teach them about pausing.
Yep.
Listen to me, and you can unpause and get back to it if you're going to give instructions. Yeah. Right. So we talked about anticipating and teaching. And then we really focused on creating positive cycles with the reinforced, the A and the R, right? And the C and the H are for another day, another time. You certainly can also find these on my YouTube channel, which is here. So if you want to take a quick snapshot of that, right, you can click to that. Enjoy any of the slides there. The workshops, some are on anxiety, how to support kids with anger and temper issues, as well as additional social skills training and social coaching approaches. And here's again, my book is a resource if you'd like to read that as an extension of what we talked about tonight.
Wonderful.
All right.
Thank you so much, Mike. I know it's been so helpful to us, and I know it will be helpful to other families as well. This will go into our video learning library on the website at specialneedscollective.com so parents can watch and rewatch. You're right, it is a lot to process, and that's only half of the arch. So you may need to watch it over and over. I'm still getting nuggets out of it, but it's all really, really useful information, and it can be tweaked and modified. My son's 14, so maybe Tweedledee and Tweedledum wouldn't work, but I can turn it into something else that is digestible for him. Everything's very actionable.
I do Bill and Phil for older kids,
there
like
you go.
just something, but it still make it a little silly, so it keeps our attention.
Right, exactly. We will work on the sloppiness of our reward system. Thank you for that little nugget. And I look forward to your next presentation, which I'm already signed up for. Thank you so much for your time and expertise. Parents, go find the YouTube channel. Check out the book. I'm in the process of reading it myself. And just know that there is help out there for these kids that struggle with social emotional coping. And thank you so much, Mike.
You're welcome. Yeah, thanks for having me. I hope this was helpful. And you can also check us out online at the Art of Friendship Social Skills program. And my practice is the Child and Family Art Therapy Center. Both are Googleable, and we have websites where you can get additional information about that as a resource.
Googleable, is that a word now?
Yes, yes, it's Googleable.
I don't know if it's in the dictionary, but I like it and I'm going to borrow it.
Yeah.
Thank you for that too. All right, thanks everyone.